There's one more shift we need to make, and it's a big one. We are accustomed linguistically to saying in the present, just like we say in the world. But nothing here is happening in the present. The table and chairs and coffee cups and everything else around you is the present. There is no external container of time that things are arising in. We think of ourselves as being in the world and in the universe, even though we are of the world and are of the universe. Most of the atoms in our bodies were formed inside the burning cores of stars. World flows through us each moment as oxygen, food, sunlight, events, and situations. Every moment we ever have is a moment of world. Yet our OS has us believing that we exist in the world, that the world is a solid, separate container of sorts that we are in and moving through. This requires several things to be true. Firstly, for the world to be a solid, separate environment that we are moving through, there needs to be empty space between objects. Impalas cannot extend outwards in space and time. Secondly, there needs to be empty space between us and objects. Kitchen tables and chariots cannot depend on what we think about them to exist. If they do, the world cannot clearly be distinguished from our minds, and we are therefore not separate selves moving through it. Lastly, things have to be arriving from the past. If the world is not arriving from the past, what is it exactly that we are moving through? If kitchen tables and sidewalks are not arriving from the past, but are emerging as the present, there is no temporally extended environment or world that we exist in. Existentially, our belief that the world is a solid Cartesian place and that we live in it leaves us in a horrible situation, that of conscious beings wandering around in a lifeless, object-filled landscape, searching for meaning and connection, forever trying to cross all the empty spaces that separate us from everything around us. The world may or may not be this solid place, full of objects separated by empty spaces, a place that you exist in. But your OS is definitely presenting it to you this way. And the psychological experience that gets generated from this definition ends up being the self that you think you are. If you take away this solid world, if you stop believing in it, this isolated self wandering through that world has nowhere to exist. You are forced to start figuring out what's really going on.